think it's time to actually cover something more general. And it's not really just UX related. It's probably applicable to every single person out there. And I hate that notion that creativity is only associated with quote-unquote creative fault. In reality, creativity to me is just like any other muscle. If you apply the right principles and you spend enough time doing it, then you are going to be a bit better at creativity than anyone else. So the other day I got recommended this super interesting study on fixation. And fixation is the opposite of creativity, or at least in my mind, that's how I would position it if I would just lay it out. On one end of a spectrum, you would have a fixation. And this is a psychology term for designers or absolutely anyone sticking with a known process or defaulting to the processes which have been proven over time to produce certain results. And we tend to fixate with the old methods way too often. And now the opposite spectrum obviously is that creativity where you kind of think outside the box and come up with better ways. And it's no secret that it's built in us because our behaviors are shaped by past experiences, by the environment, by the triggers and things we actually encounter as we go. So if we fail a lot, chances are we're going to do less of that thing. If we succeed, we're going to do more of that thing. We get so influenced by all those different things around us, like the systems, the cautionary tales, other people failing, that we tend to don't even push that boundary to get to something creative. And in this day and age, you cannot avoid, and almost like you are setting yourself up for failure if you are not creative, because you're stalling your ideation muscles, you cannot innovate, you cannot contribute, you can't even kind of spark ideas in others if you are a thought leader in any field, UX included. And so what can you actually do to be creative? The answers are very simple, and it almost comes into that notion where I shared with you again and again that you should never ever work in isolation. If you work in isolation, you're going to reinforce those old behaviors, your own past successes, methods which were good or not so good, and you're just going to fixate on the same means. Whatever you know is going to be the things you're going to try to implement or ideate on or even produce in your work, which is natural. But what's not natural and what actually pushes you out of there is teamwork and collaboration. This is like a no-brainer. If you just invert your own limited capabilities and share and ideate together and actually facilitate that ideations and sharing of ideas and contribution in the right method, then you're going to arrive at better conclusions. That's why, let's say, if you would take someone like, and I actually had to get this little piece here from my library because it's a perfect read on the same exact principle. There's few simple steps you always need to rely on and take with the team to actually arrive at more creative solutions. But number two, just as I mentioned, the methods matter too. Let's say if you are a UX designer and you're going to embed yourself in a company which doesn't understand UX design, it's going to be your responsibility to bring that creativity or that ideation methods to the forums, to fight for it, to educate people, to also take in what their experience was like, because a lot of the people might have worked as, let's say, consultants or innovation experts or had their own takes and experiences in workshops. Ability to come together and standardize that and actually set the expectations, which, by the way, the setting of expectations is item number 3. So it's almost like a perfect segue that if you can set the expectations of, hey, creativity is everyone's responsibility, but I'm, as a designer, as a UXer, going to facilitate a lot of that, then your client should be much more flexible and open to this, and maybe even less fixate on their requirements they set in the beginning. And if I were to come back to this book, time is another variable which the actual report doesn't cover as much as I would want it to cover. We need to have enough time to breathe. In this specific book, and I'm not going to do it justice because I don't remember much of it, but key takeaway is that you need to take a break before you actually get back together and then arrive at good ideas. It's really about setting up the background, researching, spitting all of it out and sharing it openly, collaboratively, then taking a break for a day, coming back together again and seeing exactly which of those ideas are actually good and which are not so good. And the time also supports Daniel Kahneman's two systems of our decision making and how absolutely anyone makes their decisions. The system 1 is super reactive, the system 2 is something if we take enough time, we can actually assess the variables, connect the dots, and come up with more creative solutions. You need to try things, you need to prototype the ideas. That's why we as designers are so good at solutionizing or defining things, is that we can quickly pull up ideas, visualize it, and come up with something which summarizes a lot. It's like the picture does tell a story of 1,000 words, as one of the cliches is, right? But cliche is there for a reason. Making, prototyping, sharing that work, and actually incentivizing other people, again, from that collaboration aspect to contribute and shaping it together is another way to avoid fixation. Between different specialties, when we work together, there is this tension and this fight of ideas and opinions. But in the end, if both are respectful towards each other, expectations are set right, there is enough trust, there is enough collaboration, then you kind of interlink those ideas and arrive at something better. And that's exactly where the creativity is, around that thing, not just your ideas or someone else's ideas or done in isolation. It's really informing it from as many angles as possible. If you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment down below, and on that note, I'll see you next time.